Ah, fuff. Another build video? And now I've got to strip this down? Huh? All the links to this, by the way, are in the descriptions below. This is the Umma95 Build Bundle. Basically with a naked GoPro Hero 6 that I have to strip down. So I'm going to do that in a video today as well. And I'll do it step by step so it's easier to follow. So this is what you get in the kit, apart from the GoPro. So this right here. So you have the naked GoPro Cinewhoop mod kit, which is this right here. You have the brushless whoop frame, this tiny thing right here, and here's the size reference, so it's very small. Comparing it to, let me get my Chandrone squirm. So you see that? That is the Chandrone's size example, and this is the Umma95. So quite a bit of a size difference. Also in the kit is the flight controller, 16-amp BL Heli 32 4-in-1 ESC V2.0, and that's in. They both come in this Betaflight FPV box right here. Then you have the Caddx FPV camera. My first time using this, and also putting it in a build video. I have the DJI FPV system in the other ones, the air unit. So this is my first time building this. And we also have the 1204 5000 kV motors. Purple and green, kind of a cool color, which you can't see right now because it's in a box. So let me unpackage all this by the magic of edits. Boom. Okay, all unboxed. Vista kit, flight controller ESC, and look at these cool motors here. They're pretty smart. I love those colors. However, what you don't get in the kit is props and or batteries. So 4S XT30s, links to those are in the bottom as well. I don't think they supply them yet, but I think they will do soon. So you can get everything you need together. But if not, just go to the links in the description below. TPU, 3D printed mounts. They come with it. This is for the frame. They have the dampeners also for the frame, which attaches the small carbon fiber to the big frame. And then we have the GoPro, naked GoPro TPU mounts also. So that all comes in the kit. If you have a 3D printer, you can get the files from Thingiverse and print out your own. So if you ever get damaged, or if you ever lose one, crash and something flies off, you can always repair your own build. So first things first, GoPro Hero 6, we have to strip all this down. This is the one I've been using already, so it has the 1.6 firmware on it. So it's already set up, ready to go. So I've just got to carve into it, and hopefully it's not too painstaking or complicated. GoPro Hero 6 teardown. So first time doing this. So I've been looking at videos and reading online, and it looks as though you basically have to attack this small hole right here, pry this up, and then this one down here. This tool is pretty handy, so I might try and pry it up with this. And also they suggest a prop to run down the case line and pry this away from the case, because there's adhesive all under here. Let's get rid of these doors first. Alright, let's remove the lens cap. Now, a lot of videos are suggested to push down and twist. Now, of course, that's not going to work. So, then they suggest to pry away underneath. So I'm basically just getting this, actually don't know what this is for. It's a pretty handy tool though. It gets in these tight gaps right here, and you can just pry away the lens cap. Try not to damage anything. Ah ha 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 ha. All right. Sweating. Okay, now, so basically just pry this thing away a little bit and then twist it. There's a little gap. Once you start getting that little gap all the way around, then twist it. Don't be an idiot like me and just try and force it off the end. You just have to do this and then twist it. Here we go, first step, already taking me an hour. Next step is taking off this rubber protection, or this rubber sleeve on top. Okay, now this protective rubber surface on top has to be removed. There's a ribbon cable underneath here, so you have to be very careful. From what I've seen in videos, there's an adhesive band around here on the inside and then around here. So they suggest to start from this hole right here and work your way all the way around and then just peel it off. So let's see what happens. All right, let's use a prop like we said we were going to use a prop. I mean, this is just madness. Look at the mess. Unbelievable. So there's still some on it, but I don't think I need that. You won't need that. So now I've got to remove 6 screws. All right, that sucked. I don't know if you can see that crack right there. That ribbon cable I hope is okay. I don't think I need this. But now this step we have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. So let's hope this step goes a little bit easier than the last. This mat, by the way, is in the link's in the description below. It's from Amazon. I think it's only like $20. Okay, so let's pry this open. And from what I understand, there is some ribbon cables underneath here. So I don't know if you can see that, but right in here are the ribbon cables. I'll use something plastic here just to pry them apart. Okay, let's see what we got. Okay, so the ribbon cables are off. Aha, okay, it's a little twist. Boom. Now we have to take off this black foam right here. Peel that back and remove. Get rid of that. So just pull You're having a laugh, aren't you? There we go. So basically just put your fingernail or finger in front here and just pry these two apart. So that's the back right there. And then this is what we need. So two separate parts. So that step was not so bad. All right, next step. We're removing 1, 2, 3, 4 screws, and there's a couple of hidden ones under here. So the first thing we have to do at this point is to lift up, disconnect this USB-C ribbon cable right here. So that pries up pretty easily. All right, so now that's off. So now let's remove these screws. Now grab hold of this black tab and just peel it back. Okay, so now we got to remove just this one screw right here. Let's remove that. Now that's out. Look at the size of that. Okay, and the other screw is hidden under this ribbon cable right here. So you have to just gently pull back this ribbon cable right here, and there's the other hidden screw right there. Pull that screw out. Now we should be, yes. So that's the USB-C, so we'll keep that. Just inspect every part as you do it, just to make sure everything looks good. Keep that over there. And there is also another screw just by the lens. These tools here come with a mat. There's this one, look how sharp those are. And pointy. And they're very handy. And then these ones too, they're curved. To especially to like remove screws, pick them up. Kind of intricate work around the circuit board. And there's another screw. So let's remove that. Right underneath that USB-C. Right in here. So let's remove that. Yeah, put that to the side. So now I think that's all the screws removed. So we can move on to the next step. We want to remove this ribbon cable from the lens. And then we want to take this tape and pry this tape away from the motherboard, and then we should be able to remove the motherboard away from there. So just pull this away. That's the ribbon cable from the motherboard to the lens removed, and then using this right here, peel away the black tape. You won't need it again, so it doesn't matter if you tear it. So I tried to remove it and it wasn't removing, because once you remove this one and then you remove this tape, you also have to remove the LCD screen. So you just pry this up. Then once you've done that, a little twist and this comes out. But that was not in the videos. So we have the motherboard, and then we have to take out, in the next step, the lens. Okay, so now there's one more screw to remove, and it is just underneath here. Right underneath here. So let's remove that. That just falls out. Boom. There we go. So that took an hour. No, maybe 45 minutes, maybe 45 minutes. So this is all the excess left over. And this is what we want for the Umma95 build. Finally, yes. So this is the Betaflight BEC board. It's a little bit cleaner than using the ribbon. It's also a way to control it with the mode and recording buttons. So you can actually start it from your quad and not the app. And there's a recording, ground and battery connection here that we'll use to power the motherboard. So basically attach this to the stripped down GoPro board like this. So you want to line up these screws. There we go. So now that's pushed together. Very neat. And then this goes this way. Boom. So we've now finished with the strip down of the GoPro Hero 6. And this is what you're left with. So this is the motherboard with the BEC, Betaflight BEC, attached right around here. So we have the record buttons and the mode buttons, so you can actually activate it from the quad. This supplies power, and that's just a connection right there. And then we have the lens of the GoPro Hero 6, which will connect to the motherboard and the TPU mounts later on. So now we can concentrate on building the quad itself. So let's begin to wire up the ESC. So starting with the red wire, so you want this to be, zoom in a little bit, red positive right here, and then each wire in order all the way through. So let's start with the red one, and these are already pre-tin. So I like to grab the wire with these pliers and just have it sticking out a little bit like this. And then we'll go ahead and solder it in. So this is pretty tricky. Okay, so that's the first one done. Then we have black. Okay, then we have green. Then we have white. Oh, I'm concentrating so hard I'm sweating. Then orange. And you can kind of pull these out of the way a little bit, but they're so small you don't want to pull too hard. Then yellow. Just got to be so careful you don't touch anything else here. Then finally, purple. This is hard to see. There's a purple right on the end there, I see you. Alright, let's tug on each wire. To me, I would say that looks pretty clean. Just want to make sure there's no solder or bridging. The red wire could be better, the blue wire could be better, but they're all holding. Alright, so that's that step done. And then this will just connect into the flight controller like this. Okay, so that's what you'll be looking for. That's the first step. Took a little while longer, but it looks like it's pretty good. Okay. Now out of the Vista, take the connector, and we want to pull out the yellow and black wires. We're going to transfer them into another connector in a second. So let's remove and lift the tab on the yellow and black wire. There's the yellow. There's the black. So the yellow and the black are now out, and I'm just using a tool with a... This is a tool I actually use on the GoPro, and it bent the end. See the end's bent there? And it actually works good to kind of hook these out. So we have the yellow and the black out of the Vista connector, and then just push that back. Now we're going to move on to the next step. Next, we have the receiver connector right here. So you can see that. I don't know if that's gonna... No, okay, that's fine. So it has ground, 5 volt, TX and RX, I think, over there. And the flight controller come with this connector with black, red, white, and yellow wires. So we basically have to remove all these wires. So we are gently lifting the tabs and pulling all these wires out, because we'll use our wires we just removed from the Vista in this connector and then plug that into the flight controller. So let's go ahead and start to do that. It's like eating with chopsticks, this. So fiddly. And then last but not least, mellow yellow. Yes. Okay. Let's put these wires aside. Now, what have we got here? Yellow and black. So, the yellow one needs to go into the connector for the RX pin, which is the third one. So this is going to go in this way. So we need it to go into this third pin. So the third pin. So let's say if you're looking at it from the top, it's going to go in this one right here. So let's attach that in there now. Alright, and now the black wire is going to ground. So if the yellow was the third wire, ground is going to be the first wire. Okay. So yellow is in 3, ground is going into 1. Okay. Just a little tug just to make sure they're okay, and they seem to be fine. So this is what you'll be looking at right here. Red in, black in 1 for ground, red in 3 for the RX pin. Okay, so double check that's good, and then we'll plug this into the flight controller. hopefully without any issues. Boom. Tug, tug. Okay. That's good. Next step. The Vista connection that we took the yellow and black wires from before. We are now going to cut the end off, cut the connector off, because that's not going to be used. So we're going to use the wires for something else. So cut them around about here, remove the end, and now we're going to have to tin the wires. So let's hold these wires. Okay, now we will tin each one. I am using the Hakko FX888D iron. And I usually just roll the wire, get it hot enough and roll the wire in it. Wire it done. So in that step, we removed the Vista connector, cut the wires, then we tin the wires, ready to solder at a later point. So the Vista connector we won't actually need, so you can get rid of that. We'll just keep it to the side for now, because you never know. So far so good. Now, what we're going to do is the battery pads right here, already pre-soldered on the ESC. We're going to solder the red and black wires we just disconnected from the Vista connector onto those negative and positive terminals on the ESC. So it's a pretty quick and easy step. And it's going to easily power the Vista directly from the battery when it's plugged in. So a couple of tips, just make sure there's enough solder on the pads. You see that the red one has solder on it from the wire, but the back of the black wire on the battery terminal does not. So we're going to heat that and also solder that pad before we attach the wire. So pretty simple. So just follow along, and at the end of it, you should have red and red on the positive battery terminal and black on the negative. All right, and this is what we got. So another tug when they're cooled down, make sure nothing falls off on both the battery and also the Vista wires. And with that, we are done. So that's going to supply power directly from the battery every time it's plugged into the Vista unit. Ready for the next step. Okay, so what you want to do now is take a yellow wire from the Vista and we want to attach it to RX1 pin on the flight controller. So you put it through the front like this so it just sticks out the back, and then you're going to solder it through the back. So that's where these hands come in pretty handy. So what I will do is, with that sticking through the back, yeah, and that's not moving anywhere. So that's the yellow wire. Now what we want to do is attach the white wire to TX1. which is right next to it. So we'll do the same thing. Stick. So TX1 is right next to it, so we'll go in from the front. So it sticks out the back, same thing. Get some helping hands or something that will help you hold this a little bit better. Turn it upside down, pull the wire, try the yellow again just to make sure I didn't desolder that joint. Both of those look pretty good. Okay, so now on to the next step. Alright, now we're going to remove these 4 screws on the back of the frame because we're going to mount the ESC. And this is when everything starts to come together. A lot of the prep work is done. So now we're just starting to add the parts all together. So pull this off right here. Now we're down to just the base plastic frame, which is pretty flexible, and it seems like it would be pretty durable as well. Let me lift it up a little bit more. So now we're going to attach the flight controller to the frame. And with the frame, this is the back, that curve is the front. So you want to place it around that way, and now we're going to mount the ESC. So this pushes into the frame like this. Just like that. You see that? And then actually it's 3 of these self-tapping screws. That's gonna go one in the front right here, and this is gonna keep everything in place. Tricky. So kind of both hands. I know my hands are in the way of the picture, but there we go. Get it in there first and then slide it up. So I won't do it completely tight just yet, just so I get it in position first. And then I'll do this side. And then the third one. And there we go. 1, 2, 3. Now, next step. Okay. So now we're going to connect the flight controller to the ESC. So the pin connector right here is going to go in to this right here. So this is slightly tricky because it's only a thin short wire. So I'm just gonna make sure I get this 100% right. So it's going to go in this way, like this. Oh, this is tricky. You need to be an octopus, you know what I mean? That goes in there like that. Huh. Okay. All you need, tiny hands, tiny fingers. Okay, I'm almost there. I get to the part where I'm just about ready, almost connected. and then it gets away from me. This is just so fiddly. Ah ha ha ha! It clicked. Did you hear that click? That's either a click or a break. See that? Seems pretty good. Now we got to route all these wires through the bottom of the frame. The hell's that wire? Oh yeah, right there. Okay, so let's push through the back now. So all these wires are out here. There we go. Leave me alone. Urgh. Too busy. Okay. So now the front side looks pretty clean and everything's coming out the back. It's a big mess. But now we can move on to the next step. Okay, so now I've got to figure out power to the BEC board. So this is the connector that I'm going to be using. The BEC board comes with a connector which is battery, ground and REC, record. In the video they take out the yellow wire and just leave voltage and also ground. But I'm going to keep the yellow wire in there and splice these three together so I can hit the record button on the BEC board. I'm not even sure this is actually going to work, so we'll find out, I guess. The heat shrink I have is way too big, but I'm going to try and still use it. So I'll load those onto these wires. And I want to do it at this point because I'm just about to attach the flight controller to the ESC. So I cut these wires back a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe about 1/8 of an inch. And we are going to twist together. So here is the connection. Let's get the solder ready. And I'll add a little bit to the solder gun, put it underneath to warm it up, and then just run it through. Okay. And then just a slight pull. Seems pretty good. So that's the ground. Let's do the red next. Okay, two good connections. Solder to it. And again, test. Okay, seems good, seems good, seems good. Now let's see if this works. Okay, I think that's going to be good enough. Twisted together, but beggars can't be choosers. And now what I want to do is push this in. But I gotta go from underneath here. Let me zoom out a little bit. So the LED connector on the flight controller, I'm now attaching the power to the BEC board. You just want to make sure you get this the right way around. So, what are we talking here? LED. So, yellow goes this way. Power, ground, 5-volt middle, yellow goes to yellow left. And then make sure it's threaded through this way. Which it is. Okay, so now that's the... And I can actually take this end off. I can disconnect this now. Just so I'm not dragging that around. Actually, that comes off. That's pretty loose. I've seen to use floss that you use for to floss your teeth. Use that because that just wants to come apart all the time. Yeah, I don't think that's going to stay together if I have an impact. So let's keep that to the side. Alright, so that's the GoPro powered. Okay, so now we're moving on to the Vista. We are going to tin the pads on the Vista. So there's 2 already done right here. We're going to do the next 4. So maybe if I can hold it on an angle. Aha, perfect. So I use the old GoPro board. Okay, so let's do this. Not the best job, but not the worst. And I can clean that up later. That third one was sharp. Okay. So now we're ready to go on to wiring up the Vista. Okay, right, so now we're ready to wire up the Vista unit. And I'm going to go from right to left. So this is the power and the ground. So we're going to do red wire, black wire that we soldered onto the back pads of the battery right here. The thing is, when you route the wires through the back, it gets slightly confusing. And there's 2 blacks and 2 yellow wires. So we'll just do this one by one. So we'll do the red from the battery first. And again, it will start from the right side. Might be a bit dark, but I'll show you after. Now we need black ground. Now the white wire. So this is going to, white wire goes from Caddx on the flight controller. Feels pretty good. That's 3 so far. So now we get into the yellow wire from RX. So you just want to trace where you are at. So right here. So this is on the iPad. So you can see these will be available in the description too on the website. Just so I can trace. Oh, there we go. Here we go. So yellow wire right there, RX1. Now we have the black wire, which is another ground, and S-bus, which is the yellow. So that's down, and now the last wire. Last but not least, yellow S-bus. Did I tell you this is fiddly? Okay. Is it even a word? Boom. Okay. Let's see if you can see. Remember pictures in the links below on the website. I'll probably do like a blog post or something. I don't know if you can see that, but I don't think that's going anywhere. That's the Vista. Caddx Vista ready. Now the antenna, Vista. So break out the antenna. It's buried in there. Right here, Caddx Vista antenna. And now we need to connect it to this back plate right here. So right here. So loosen these 4 nuts, bolts, however you want to say it. Now you want to grab this plate, pull it away, pull it to the side. Then, can you see this? This, I don't know if that will focus, probably not, into this pin right here, so just push that in. It pops, okay. So you heard that, right? So now, over the top, tweezers again. You know, pushing this plate over the top. Just to keep that locked in. And down. Now we've done that. That's in there. Retighten the 4 bolts. And that's not going anywhere. Wires are good. Alright, so now that is the antenna mounted. So now I think we can start getting the TPU mounts ready and move on to the... I think all the soldering is pretty much done. Now we're really on to putting everything finally in its place. So we should be pretty close to the end. Oh, a recap. The BEC board. I put some floss around it just to keep it in place. Because this would pop up a little bit. So I'll explain this again later. So, and it would pop out of its connection. So I just put some, someone said some floss, dental floss, remove the wax on it, and then put this in, wrap it around so it doesn't come out. Now we're mounting the first TPU part to the frame, which is this part right here. So basically, we want to lift up the pigtail, and in this groove right here, it's actually made for the back of this to fit, so it just lines up with the back of the TPU mount. So you want to start from the back and then just push it in, and you'll hear it kind of fit snugly in place. So there it is right here, with the arms facing upwards, and you want to go from the back with this one. So now that's on, just push down, make sure it's all good. And then in from the back. Okay, 1. And number 2. too tight. And that's the back of the frame done. Now we're going to do the front, which is a little bit more tricky. Now, for the front, or the top side of that TPU mount, there is a screw that you have to self-tap through. And it's like the ugly stepchild. It's in a bag by itself in the kit, but it's specifically for that purpose. So grab out the stepchild. And I'm going to start self-tapping this. So there is already a hole in the frame here, and the TPU, just push it through to that hole, keep it centered, and then just gently, and then just check. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. So now you can see. So hole in the TPU first, screw in the screw in the hole in the TPU first, and then you can gently raise up this pad, see where you're going to screw in, and then push down, bit of force, go slow, not too much force, and then screw into where you need to go. So now that is perfectly on there, and you'll hear it as you start screwing this down. You'll hear this part, the middle part, go actually into the frame, which is good. And that's not going anywhere. Maybe a little bit more, not too tight, because it is TPU. Alright, that's the base of the Vista mount in position. What up? Now the TPU is in there, we're going to attach the Vista to it. So you want it facing, with the serial port facing up. So you want to go through, so let's twist these wires around a little bit. And then, again, drop the Vista into the TPU mount, which actually holds it pretty securely anyway. Now what we need to do, grab the other TPU part for the top, which is right here, which is this part. So this is going to hold the antenna, this part right here. Before you put it in, just make sure, it should be sliced at the back so you can fit it through, but just make sure it is, and it comes apart, which there's a little bit of stringiness, because you don't, where's my knife? You don't want to be putting the antenna in and cutting this around the antenna, so you want to make sure this is free and clear, which it is now, and this goes on like so. So now, a little bit neater now, huh? Like this, and you can see it this way, and it actually holds it pretty firmly. Now the trick is, so you can see from the side the 4 holes that we have to zip tie through. So this hole right here, then there's one here, one here, and then one on top right there, and that's going to be what holds the Vista in place. So you need tiny, tiny zip ties, which I hope I have. Small enough. Let me see. Oh, what a nightmare that was. So the zip ties you get, we're going to zip tie the Caddx Vista to the TPU prints. The zip ties you buy at a hardware store, the ones I bought around here, are too thick, so I had to get some on Amazon, 2mm by 150mm, I think they were, a link below. But they're the ones that fit right through without any adjustment. So you want to place on the top TPU mount right here with the antenna holder facing the back, and then thread one zip tie one way. Just make sure you get it through the TPU mounts and the Vista, and then one through the mount the other way. Shouldn't be any issues. And then now through the bottom part, TPU and Vista mount. So this hole right in here and out the other side. Again, making sure it comes through both sides and both sides of the TPU mount. It's a bit fiddly, this part again. Pull it kind of tight and then do the other one over the wires, so it's going to secure the wires as well. I double checked this to make sure that was right, but I guess it makes sense so the wires don't go into the prop. So you push that like that, that around, and now we're ready to attach it. Okay, that's in. There we go. Over the wires. And then the back one goes in a little bit easier. Now, make sure they're tight. Okay. Boom. All right. Now just cut off the excess. So you have this right here. Focus. One side, the other side. Now, the antenna mount, which is pretty easy. So you got to separate the TPU and just widen it, and then push this, the antenna, into the 3D mount, and then push it down a little bit. So we have this now, you see that right here? And to secure the antenna, we're going to use another zip tie. Okay, that's good. Remove the excess. And then just test it, make sure it's secure. Make sure everything's in there. Nothing's binding. And everything's pretty clear. And everything looks pretty good. So now, the Vista is mounted. Alright, now we're mounting the top part of the frame. So, you just want to make sure they are, the flat side is facing down. So the side with the indentations faces up, and it wants to go this way. So the thicker sides here and here go side to side. These thinner sides of the frame right here, front and back. So all wires underneath, if you can. So I'll put these to the front, and these just slot in underneath. Oh boy. And watch the Vista, that was close. Watch the Vista, the cable underneath this. Any resistance from any wires, just check it again. Make sure you're not pinching any wires, like I almost did. And then 4 of the bigger self-tapping screws. See those? And now screw this in. Good. 1, 2, finger tight, 3, 4, and just look underneath, make sure they're in all the way. That Vista cable just wants to get pinched. Okay. Top plate in. Now we're going to move on to the motors. Alright, so the thing with the motors is that they come with a bag, let me zoom out a little bit, full of screws. But guess what? We're not going to use them. So don't even open them, keep them to the side. There is a bag like this in their build that comes with the screws for the motors. So, and it looks like there's a bunch of them in there, but they are small. And you're only going to use, look at all these bags, by the way, what does that look like? My wife is going to be asking questions. You know what I mean? You're only going to be using 2 of these at first for each motor. So set 8 aside, 2 on each motor, and then put them somewhere safe for later on. And what you're going to do is you're going to install these two bolts into the motor through the back side of the frame in these 2 outside holes only first on each one. Okay, so it's suggested to actually kind of wind these around, twist these. I mean, you can probably do that afterwards actually, but so just keeps them nice and tidy, not too tight. And then from the back of the frame, and we're going to use good old-fashioned Loctite. So let's get the first screw. Just so you can see it. Stand up because that stuff leaks everywhere. And start with the first motor membrane on the outside. Not too tight in that first bolt because you want to be able to move it so you can get the second bolt on the outside in. So do the same thing. Loctite thread locker blue 242. It's good stuff. It goes right in. I'm just going to wipe off the excess. And now if you do it from the side, because you want to make sure the bolts don't go into the windings. Which can happen sometimes. Again, not too tight. Two bolts on the outside. Repeat this, actually we'll just do it together. Okay, so now once the outside bolts are in, turn the quad over and we're going to route the wires through the frame. So you want to go let me just see if you can see this. So through here, and plug each motor into the frame. Every step. But that's what you get in one of these quads. It's a tricky build, but it's well worth it. With the frame again. Turn it around and place it into position. Here's a tip with the motors. If you're having trouble connecting them, loosen the bolts on the ESC just a little bit, and then what you can do is then, now the board is slightly movable, it makes it so much easier to put the motors in. Alright, motors are now in. You ever have one of those builds where you just want to take it and throw it across the room? It won't even need propellers to fly. Or straight out the window, that way. This is it right here. That last motor to get in was an absolute nightmare. I ended up having to loosen the bolt right here on the ESC, the front and the side one, just to shift it around a little bit. Probably the best way to do it. You may be able to get yours in easier, whether it wasn't lined up correctly, like it was in the video, because he seems to just plug his right in. But that was a nightmare, and I almost lost it. Lots of swearing. I walked away at one point, just because I didn't know what I was going to do. And yeah, so now it's in. So GoPro took me the longest. Plugging in the motors to the frame, second. That's why I got another one. Always get a spare motor, just in case I do something wrong or something happens, you know what I'm saying? Alright, now the isolators. Or the dampeners, whatever you want to call them. So there are 6, 7, 8 M2 machine screws, the long ones, in your kit. That's what you're going to use. You're going to use 2 on each one at first. And you want to use, see the flat side right here? Put 2 of those machine screws through here and just protrude them through a little bit more. So it should look like this. And do that with all 4 of the dampeners. Now we got all of these prepped. Dampeners, these are for the vibrations. You want to place these zoom in a little bit, like this. That's how they want to go. So they're going into the front 2 screws of the motors, and this hook right here is facing down. And you want to put these in each of the back of the motors, protecting the windings again, just make sure, and also use thread locker again. Which is actually pretty simple on these, because I usually just poke these through most of the way, about halfway, and then just kind of treat, a little bit too much, it's okay there. And then screw in like that. So that's all 4 you're going to be able to bend it back like this. All four the same. Alright, now let's build the top part with the naked GoPro. Okay, so now we assemble the naked GoPro part. So we have all the TPU prints, the GoPro motherboard with the attached to the BEC board, and I use floss. I'm not sure I mentioned this yet, but floss to keep it all secure, tight, so nothing's gonna disconnect, because it was pretty easy to lift this board off of the motherboard. So I thought when I crashed it, you don't want it coming off, so there's floss around there. So now what we have to do, we have the lens and the top mount right here. So you want the ribbon cable for the top mount right here is going to go into the GoPro just behind here. So the BEC board is right here. Let me see if that is focused. And there is the connection for the camera. But before you connect it, you have to go through the frame here first. So hold the frame like this and then loop that through here. So it's just through that front part and then into, do it so you're almost going to push the camera lens through this part, like it was almost like this. So you want to connect it together like that, and then push down, and you'll hear a click. If it doesn't click, it's not connected. So now we have this.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Okay, we have an issue. This on the BEC board is not going to work because there's not enough space between the frame and the top frame. This has to come off. I kind of wanted it to be plug and play, but so I could plug other, say if I ruin this board for some reason, I could just unplug it, put a new one in. I guess soldering doesn't make any difference, so let's just do that right now. Okay, so let's remove this connection. I might have to cut this. Well, let's see if we can remove the connection anyway. No. What a pain. Right, BEC board comes off. Now, rather than cause damage to the BEC board, just desolder the tabs either side of the connection, and that will make it a lot easier to pull off with the pliers. It should come straight off, so that's what we're doing now. Okay, that is off. Now, once you remove the plastic connection, there is 3 prongs that are standing up. Probably don't need to remove them, but we're going to remove them anyway. So we just desolder the front of them and pull them up with a pair of pliers at the same time, just to be neat and tidy. All right, so here's what I decided to do for the BEC board. I removed the connector right here. I'm going to use these 3 pads, which they leave on there, so record, ground, and power. I'm going to cut this connector back off the quad, which I didn't really want to do, but I've got no choice. Solder it to these 3 pads, and then connect the board back to the GoPro. My thinking here was that if something goes wrong with this, I can still always pull the BEC board off of it. So I can, if this is soldered to it, I can just, if something goes wrong, I can pull this off, get another motherboard to the GoPro and then reconnect it. So I can use this as a connector. I didn't really want to do it that way, but I think it's the best way to do it, actually. So let's do that. So let's cut these connectors close to here. Let's free that. That's good, that's good, that's good. We'll tin the wires. What a pain, huh? And we'll also prep these pads right here. So the 3 pads are ready to go. So now, the best way to mount this. So I'm wondering if I should route the wires through the back of this. Yeah, let's just do it this way. We can always adjust and modify as we need to. So, positive first. Positive, ground. And record. Pull the wires, check that they're okay. So now I can mount the board. Phone's going crazy. Pull the wires up a little bit. Nah, I think that'll still work. All right, I think that'll work. So let's go on to the camera. So get the frame and the camera for the GoPro. Ribbon through here and off to the right. And then the ribbon cable underneath, that right there, is going to go just on the pad below these wires right here. So let's do that first. Now we're going to be kind of constricted because of the wires, but I think we can work around it. Pushed in. Click, click, click. These 3 wires are still all connected. Okay, guess that looks good. So now turn the camera facing forwards. And what you want to do now, this is kind of tricky. What, tricky in this build? No. Grab the longest screw right here in the kit. Because what you're going to do is you're going to thread. You're going to add this part in between the GoPro motherboard and the hole in the frame. So line them up. Oh man. Just make sure that ribbon cable doesn't come out. I'm zooming out for this. I don't think you'll be able to see this anyway. Okay, so that's through. And the screw, when you're screwing it in, go through it about halfway. Then, you can see that. Push the screw through the frame. So now it's through the frame. You really need to be an octopus for this. Incredible. And then this piece right here has to go on top with the other legs facing the back of the quad. So you've got to sandwich all this together, push down, and screw in. I can't even give you tips on how to do this best. You've just got to hold everything at the same time and literally just keep screwing the pieces together. This is be very careful here. Got to separate the TPU mount without pulling off the ribbon cable. I'm going to be honest with you, this step was an absolute nightmare. It kept unplugging the ribbon cable. It just takes a lot of patience. You've got to try and hold that ribbon cable into the BEC board if you can while you're turning the camera, and then everything should slot together. And then at the end, just make sure everything's tight, but good luck. Battery strap time. Hopefully this will go smoother than the rest of it. Now that's in there. Now for this part, the back spacer for the GoPro motherboard only fits one way, so we're going to, the best thing to do here is to put these two M2 screws through the frame a little bit first, so they're protruding from the back just a touch. Move the battery strap out of the way. Same here. So both of these are through this side a little bit. Lift up that, you don't want to get that in the way. There we go. And just get it started. And if it's in there, connect the other one. Again, not too tight. You never really want to stress out the TPU because then it will break easier. So it looks like that from the back. You see the back right there? That's how you want it to fit. I'm just checking all the connections at this point. Again, the ribbon cable, everything. And everything looks good so far. Now we're going to add the front of the camera. Sometimes with TPU, just twist it a little bit. Make it a little bit more flexible, because it probably hasn't moved since it was printed, and you want to be able to go right over the top of your lens. And now you've done that, it makes it a little bit easier to get around the sides. Just like that. Alright, M2 screw. Now the other thing we have to deal with is there is a light leak. So let's deal with the light leak issue. So I'm going to cut some electrical tape and cover up the top of the camera right here, the back of the camera, and then the sides. Because apparently if you don't, there is a issue with light escaping through into the footage. Now we're ready for the isolators. So M2x4 self-tapping screws, those small ones with the point. Take 4 of those. And now these tabs are going to be pushed over like this and then the arms of the frame are going to sit, be screwed to them. So screw through the middle. Actually, let's pre-screw screws through this frame. Put your finger over the other side so you feel it pop through a little bit. 2 over the other side. Isolators back. Put that in the middle of the TPU into the pre-drilled hole and tighten. The back ones, actually let's do it across from each other just so it lines up a little bit better. If you kind of pinch, like I'm doing right here, it kind of holds it in place. And then some right here. Pinch. And turn it around. Last but not least, and then just twist these around so they're straight. Check everything. Everything looks good. Not going anywhere. That's all lined up. Line these up afterwards too, so they should be facing out. And as you push down on it, it's almost like a suspension. It's pretty cool. So that's those installed. Now the next thing we have to do, I believe, is now the Vista FPV camera. So loosen all the bolts. And you can see it right there. So that arrow facing this way, so turn that up the correct way. Actually, just let me double check that, because I've done that before. Flying upside down is never fun unless you're in a jet or something. And then screw back in. And then just make sure everything is straight down, so it all lines up. I'm just checking that everything is connected. No loose wires. GoPro board and ribbon cable is intact. It feels very light, and that's what you want. Without battery, 138 grams. The battery, that's the batteries. This is what I'm using, by the way. Let's put this up. 192 grams with battery and everything else. Props have got to go on there too, but I mean that's minimal. So you're probably talking around about 200 grams here. Okay, so you may notice that the flight controller is hanging loose on the back, and that's because we want to set it up in Betaflight, so we need access to the serial port, which you can do from the side here. So once that's set up, we are going to secure this with the 4 spacers and 4 screws. Then we are going to bind the Vista, check motor directions, and then take it for a short hover test flight. And hopefully everything, and then also obviously power the GoPro, check the GoPro, and hopefully everything is pretty good. So let's move on to Betaflight. Okay, so now we open up Betaflight and I will show you the settings for the Umma95X build. Okay, so connect. And what I will do is, so all the firmware for the ESCs and the flight controller have been updated. So I'll go through each tab so you can see the settings for them. So this is the ports right here. So UART3 on serial RX, UART1 activated. Now onto the configuration. Some of these are from the video and some of these I customed to what I prefer, especially with the PIDs. So we're at D-Shot 300, bidirectional D-Shot is on. We have 14 motor poles, 5.5 motor idle throttle value, 8K kilohertz, 4 kilohertz accelerometer, 180 degrees arm. So as you can see, everything is pretty much standard from the Umma95 build video. I didn't really change actually hardly anything on this, especially in this screen right here. So I'll just take it slow so you can see everything and copy everything. And I have S-Bus because I'm using the Vista and goggles, DJI FPV system. And now we'll go on to the PIDs. So this is the PID profile. And some of this was also taken from the UAV Tech, which is also a great YouTube channel. So check that out. So I'll hold on this for a bit. Demin turned off, anti-gravity on, I turn relax on. It's kind of what preferences I like. So you may find you want to adjust it from this, but the only thing with this build is it's so difficult. Well, it's not difficult, but it's a pain to get to the USB port on it, the serial port on the quad, because you have to unscrew the bottom of it, take the flight controller out. So it's can be a bit of a pain. So I'm not a fan of coming back to adjusting it. Let's go into the rate profile. Actual rates, again, these are from the UAV Tech, which worked pretty good for me. I'll take a quick look at that. And now the filter settings. So I'm kind of way up there with less filtering, but again, check the heat on your motors. Make sure everything was good. My one went fine, so if you got the same as me, you should be good. But just double check anyway. Never hurts, especially if you're using different motors. Let's go to receiver, just to show you something here. So all of these, they can be customized to whatever you need. The only thing I changed was the auto smoothness right here at 30. I think it's at a generic of 10 maybe, but on the Umma build, they referenced this to set it up to about 30. So I think it works pretty good. So I kept that. Modes, I don't think you really need to see. I have beeper and I have flip over. And that's about it, pretty basic. Motor tabs, I'm not plugged in, so you'll see some errors. As soon as I plug it in, they'll go away, so just check that when you plug the battery in. OSD is pretty generic for me. And that's about it, really, for the Betaflight setup. So just make sure that you check everything afterwards, double check everything. And I'll go back to the configuration here so you can see that again. And if you change motors, make sure that you count the motor poles in there as well. I'll go down to the bottom. I think I set the RX loss and RX set up to. And there we are, back to the start. So copy those rates. If they suck for you, then mess around with them, edit them by yourself, try your own, retry and see what works best for you. But this is the builder. I've been flying this now maybe 2-3 months, so I'm revisiting this now, but it seems to work for me. Okay, done. What am I doing here? Look at that. And 2 fully charged batteries. The first plug-in always a nervous time because after this build, anything can happen. I checked it, although there should be no short circuits. I checked it with a multimeter, so we should be good. I always say should. But I also want to bind the Vista to the DJI system. So I want to do that first, and then I've already set up some stuff in Betaflight, but I also need to plug it in to check the motors and also the receiver. So the first time, we're plugging this in right now. Please don't start smoking. If it does, I'm probably gonna cry. You know what, let's just go for it. Wait, just make sure everything's connected. No, I'm just gonna go for it. That's all you can do. Make sure the props are off, obviously. 3, 2, 1. Okay, that's great, that's good news, yes. Okay, so now, goggles, DJI goggles. Still no smoke, amazing. And we are going to bind the goggles. Let me press the bind button in the goggles. Now you'll hear it bleep. Let's see, so press the bind button on the Vista. Hold that in. Now we got the green, we're good to go. Now we just have to bind the rest and we can move on. Okay, so now we're set up and flashed all the latest firmware. We're ready to now mount the flight controller. So make sure nothing's pinching, grab the 4 tabs and insert them into the slots on the side of the flight controller. Just a little vibration dampening. Ow! That hot. That Vista gets hot. You know what I'm saying? Why would this go easy? Rest of the build was super simple. Not. Yes. Rule number 1. Wire pinching is frowned upon. Okay, is that in there? Is that in there? Is that in there? And then 4 of these silver screws. Okay, so one in the top right there. Screwdriver. 4 screws in each one of these holes. Not too tight, not too loose, just right. Okay. Make sure everything's in. Not too much movement there, but it's also not going to go anywhere. Beautiful. Now we're ready for the landing gear. Okay. So I think I lost some screws, or they didn't come with it, but so I had to salvage some screws to put on the landing gear. You're using the same silver screws as you did for the ESC and flight controller, but the front one is thicker. So the front one is a self-tapping screw, but that was of course the one I lost. So I'm going to improvise with one of these screws, but I've got to kind of pre-drill it here. Okay, so that's pre-drilled in. M2 if you need it, and I'm going to actually put that one in first. So get right to the front here, and then the other smaller screws. And what do you think? If you followed all the way through this, well done. Did you burn yourself and cut yourself as much as I did? Probably not. If you did, post in the comments below how many times. I think I was on 5 or 6. And the final screw of the build. Dun, dun, dun. Thanks for hanging with me, guys and girls. I hope yours went a little bit easier. If it didn't and you still stuck with it, nice work. That landing gear. I'm actually 3D printing some more of these in blue, so that'd be pretty cool. Alright, now let's pop the props on. Alright, so I did a time jump and I already have the props on there. And the reason is because I've been flying it for a couple of months now and I wanted to add a few things into this video that I upgraded. So here are the props that I have on right now. Gemfan Crazy Pony. These are from Amazon, currently unavailable, but you can get these from Get FPV and Defiance FPV. I found that those work better than the suggested stock ones. Just a quick look at these. Basically putting the props on is really easy. It's just a couple of nuts in each side. Then I have also changed the motors out. So if you can see it there, I have used iFlight motors in also on Amazon. So let's put this down there. I find these are quieter. So the original stock ones I found were good motors, but they were a little bit too loud for me. So I always find that iFlight motors are a little bit quieter. So I wanted to put these on and try it out, and they work great so far. So I think I am recommending these motors for this quad so far. And the other thing I did was to the light leak in the front right here. I've taken off that black tape because that sucked. It kept falling off. So I got from Staples Funtac. And it's basically this like putty stuff that you just kind of like, it's like molding putty really. And that's what you see molded around the side right here. That keeps any light leak out, and the videos look great, and it stays on there though, no matter what. So that's the last upgrade I made, but regarding the motors, I just spliced the motors right there. Because these iFlight motors don't come with the connector, so I just spliced them. Both sides. And that actually works really well for me, so it's been flying great. And that's it. So this is everything on it. But it was a great build, and it works really, really well. Flies amazing. So use my Betaflight settings if you want, or adjust it to your own. But that's it. So thank you for following this. What will be 2 hours, I think. So let me show you the footage, because that's what everyone wants to see, not this ugly.